Hello friend, welcome back to my channel. It's Tim here. For this painting, I knew I wanted to do a fall-inspired landscape. I've been really inspired by the forest recently too, with all of the colors changing, so I kind of imagined this cute little cottage at the edge of a dark woods. The cottage you see in this painting too is actually from a different painting I was working on, but then in the middle of it, I changed course of where I wanted it to go, so I decided to scrap that one, but I still like the house. In the beginning here is where I like to block in all of my big colors and shapes, so that way I have an idea of where my painting is going to go. And for the background, I started with this soft terracotta color, that way everything will kind of have a warm orange base undertone, which will really help to soften and diffuse all of my colors as I paint and when I blend. Starting with a colored background rather than a white background really helps to prevent creating an atmosphere or any mood lighting before I'm ready, and will help to prevent baking in that brightness from the beginning. Something huge that will save you a lot of time, especially in the early stages of painting nature with a lot of background trees or bushes, is painting one layer of foliage and then copying and pasting it in a bunch of different areas and turning and flipping it so it looks a little bit different. This will save so much time painting the base layers. For this part as well, I also like to use bigger brushes here, that way I don't spend a ton of time detailing the undercolors just to end up covering it up later. And for the colors, I really like to start with all of them really desaturated and paint with a lot of midtones and transition colors. This way everything ends up blending better together. And I try to make sure all of the colors are around the same level of saturation. So like with the flowers, since everything else in the painting is kind of based in smoky oranges, reds, browns, and greens, for the flowers, I'm making sure the blues, pinks, and purples are also going to be very smoky and toned down and around the same level of value, nothing too bright or too dark yet. And I love to use the color harmony wheel a lot too, and choose colors for accents and flowers especially that are complementary. That way they create automatic contrast without needing to use super light or dark colors yet. With paintings this size too, I've actually started to break up each area of the painting into its own mini session, kind of treating each area like it's its own piece of work. Sometimes the amount of details in these paintings can be a little overwhelming, so this really helps me to focus on areas of smaller details and to kind of make sure I can spend about the same amount of time with all areas of the painting. I worked on this piece for a couple of months, not consecutively though, and I finished it almost a year ago today. From time to time now, I've started making it a habit not to post my work the minute I finish it. That way I know if I'm the only one who's going to see this piece, I kind of tend to relax and have more fun with it, which has really helped rather than stressing about just getting it done and moving on to my next project so I have something to post. It kind of lets the painting tell me when it's done and what it wants to be. And it's allowed me to be a little more present during the process when there's no pressure or stakes to get it done right away. Unfortunately, as artists, sometimes that pressure mostly comes from ourselves. And I know this may sound weird or maybe unexpected because I don't know if you've ever felt like this. Sometimes when I paint and see my finished product, I think, how am I going to repeat that? And it almost gives me anxiety, like I won't do as good a job the next time. And sometimes I will procrastinate in finishing something if I worry that I'm going to end up ruining it. And I think it's just something that you kind of just have to let become part of your process and not trying to actively shy away from it, because I feel like the harder you push away something, the harder it pushes back. Getting away from that perfectionist mindset can sometimes be a really hard thing to just get out of your own way. Over the last couple of years, I've really tried to go in thinking not everything's going to be perfect. You don't have to share everything you make. Sometimes good artists make bad work, and that's just the nature of painting. But it is so important to take that head on because it is so important to our learning and growing as an artist. So here you'll see me working on the house, sharpening up angles and adding smaller and finer detail lines to the windows. I also tested out a different look with a fence in the front that I may incorporate into a different painting. I just thought it was going to be a little too busy for this one when I saw it together. Ultimately, I ended up extending the length of the painting here too, but didn't end up needing it, but it all ended up working out all right in the end anyways. And this is where I really started increasing my color saturation and playing with the mood and tone of the painting. Before it appeared almost like a very cool and dreary autumn day, so I wanted to change the mood up just a little bit. I also discovered here I really don't like painting bricks. It is super tedious, and I'm one of these weird people that enjoys tedious details, but these bricks were almost more tedious than painting grass, and I didn't think anything could get worse than that, except for maybe watching it grow. After I had all of my base details and colors created, this is where I really went in and started adding the main details and figuring out where I wanted the light and the shadows to live. I decided I wanted to make it a late afternoon scene with the lighting coming from above and casting a very warm ambient glow around the scene, which will really make the shadowed areas pop out more and look more dramatic. And for this, I like to play with a lot of different overlays, usually like to use soft light for the shadows and overlay for the highlights. And until now, I generally avoid using any whites or black throughout the piece until the very end. These are the lightest and the darkest colors, and they will draw the most attention wherever they are placed. It's here too now where I'm working on the piece as a whole, making sure all of the details that I'm adding are working with each other throughout the piece, and kind of making sure there are fun little textures and details to look out throughout the whole thing. This is probably my favorite art style to paint in. There are so many small details that make me so happy, and while some people could say this type of art is overtly happy and idealized, for me it's actually kind of seen as a sad piece. I consider myself more of an emotional painter where I'm painting more of a feeling rather than an actual place. This piece represents a sanctuary to me. It's a place away from all of the hard things and all of the sad days to a place with small joys where the sun's ever shining, which is probably a little sappy, but it's something that I enjoy. I finished this piece by adding in the lights in the windows and little flecks of highlights here and there, and of course I had to finish it with my cat Coco, which has kind of become a running gag in all of my landscape paintings, and now sometimes my work doesn't feel quite finished without her somewhere in there, so I have to include her. Black cats are truly the best. Thank you so much for watching and coming with me on this little adventure into my painted world. If you like this video and want to see more like it, I invite you to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps my channel out. And until next time, friend, I'm wishing you a lovely day and happy painting.